We talk about this enormous wealth of biodiversity we have in this country, but we don't link often that food diversity is linked to biodiversity. And that if we lose one, we will lose the other. And if we lose the culture of food, we will lose nature. And it is this link that we as environmentalists are very keen to be able to shout and scream about, to say, you need to bring the biodiversity of the wild into your kitchen. You need to make it part of your lives, because if we don't do that, then it will not survive in the wild as well. If you look at rice, the diversity of rice is just so phenomenal in this country. I mean, all of us today know white basmati rice, and we probably know the different brands by which it is sold, but we don't know the diversity of rice that exists across this incredible India that we have. And my colleague Vibha, who's put this together and really is responsible for the substance behind it, she's constantly telling us that rice is really never defined in terms of it being white or polished. It's defined in terms of the variety that gives you nourishment and the variety that gives you medicinal properties. And that's the way rice was looked at across the country. And if you look at the way different parts of India cooked different varieties of rice, and you understand then what it meant both to the culture as well as to the body, both in terms of nutrition as well as in terms of medicinal properties, we're losing it all. We're completely losing it all. We only know today the white basmati polished rice. We don't know about Kerala's Navara. We don't know about Maharashtra's unique rice. We don't know the Kayam, which is a variety which is also drought and salinity resistant. So you basically get rice which is wise in its ability not to use too much nature. And it grows in a part of the world where water is very scarce. And then, of course, you have the mountains, and you have rhododendrons, and you have the sharbat that comes out of rhododendron trees. Now, if we lose that nature, you will never get the flavor of the rhododendron flower. And vice versa. If you don't value the flavor of the rhododendron flower, the tree will go one of these days. The mahua is a tree which is on CSE's logo. CSE's logo has 5 trees, and one of them is mahua. And the reason mahua is on our logo is because it is the survival tree for central India. It is the tree on which people depend upon for both life in terms of food, in terms of drink. And it's a tree that is never cut for that reason. But we cannot differentiate that tree from teak, and so we cannot differentiate a survival tree, a tree that gives value to cuisines, and a tree that just adds to your economy. But the other point is that food is about nutrition. It is about relishing the flavors, enjoying the smells, taste, but also enjoying the goodness of health. So it isn't about boring nutrition. It isn't about saying it's healthy food because it is boring and it is dull. It is about nutrition food, which is actually as flavorful as any other food can be. But the only difference is that it doesn't have empty calories. Because when you have junk food, you have calories, but they're empty. They're useless to your body. And so what you get here is that flavor, but you also get the nutrition. If you look at bale, a bale is a tree that for most of us in this part of the world, we've probably grown up with, but you don't see it anymore. And yet we've all grown up saying, agar pet mein kuch kharabi hai, to bale jarur le lena. And the sharbat of bale is something that we are forgetting. If I go to Latin America, South America, they enjoy their fruit. We don't. We just know Pepsi and cola. If you look at makhana, it's the protein. It gives you protein. It's the alternative to whatever you may eat as a snack. You've been eating it today, right now. It's the seed of the water lily. The singhara, which is the water chestnut, can be made into sweets in this case, but it's also very highly nutritious. But the point I want to make again, and I'm stressing this because we cannot forget our very boring part of our world, which is the environment. And for us, the lakes and ponds, if you look at these two that I talked about, the Makhana, which comes from a water plant. Look at Singhara, it comes from a water plant. Now these are plants of the ponds of northern India. And the ponds of northern India are critical for the survival of this economy. And today, with increasing fears of climate change, beginning to see more extreme rainfall happening, you are going to see more and more intense flood periods. And the only way you can deal with floods is if you have the water bodies, the sponges, which can actually provide you the ability to be able to manage the water well. So if the ponds disappear, think about it this way. Makhana and Singhara will be lost. And if Makhana and Singhara are lost, livelihoods are lost. Fishermen are dependent on this for their survival. And the value that you get from the ponds also goes. Because when you eat the Makhana, you eat the Singhara, you're providing an economic value to that water body. You are saying that that water body is there because it has a production, you can harvest something from it, which gives value both to livelihoods as well as to the local economy. And then, of course, if we lose the ponds, the taste goes, nutrition goes. And so, as I said, food is also about livelihoods. It's about the business of growing, collecting, storing, selecting, and improvising on the seed, the value in its taste. And we cannot replace this enormous diversity, this enormous wealth, this treasure that we have with the mono-industrial culture of food that we are beginning to have. So culinary tradition, and that's really what both Pushpesh and Vinod know much better than I do, is really about, as I see, that tradition of valuing nature as well. Jute is something that I honestly had no idea till Vibha introduced it in the book, that you could actually eat a jute pakora. You could also have a bhang pakora, which I didn't know about, but you can, and it's eaten in very large parts of eastern India, which was something that was news and knowledge to me as well. But what I found very interesting was that the chulai that we have, and cholai is something I've grown up with as a green thing, but you can also make sweets out of it. And I had no idea that you could actually, that's the culinary tradition that I think we need to celebrate. The ability to improvise, the ability to take different parts of the plant and actually celebrate it for its taste is something that we really need to understand better. But the last point is, in my view, the most important thing is that food is also about wisdom. It's about people, but it's people's wisdom, as I talked about, the culinary tradition, but it's also about crops and their wisdom. The more diverse your platter is, the more you will have crops which actually are respectful of the way nature would provide them. So they would be based on the different ecosystems of this country. You would have water-prudent crops, you would have nitrogen-fixing crops, you would have flood-tolerant crops. So instead of trying to fix nature constantly, in trying to replace nature, you would actually learn how to celebrate how nature has learned to make the best of its limitations. So if there is an area which has floods, there is a rice variety which grows to stay above the flood water. If there is an area which has drought, you have something like bajra, you have something like millet, which is extremely water prudent. And for all the people who talk about how water guzzling crops must stop, they must understand that the only way we can stop the use of water in agriculture is when we change what we eat. Because you can never have a rice variety which uses less water, but you can eat bajra, you can eat other crops which use less water. And so that really is the connection that we need to make, because if we are talking about protecting agriculture, then we are also learning that diversity without it is not possible. So food ultimately is about all of us. Food is about our culture. It is about our lifestyle and the choices we make. And the point that I'm constantly making, and I want to make it as loudly as possible, is that India eats well. India eats good food still. We eat at home. We have good food. But the problem is that we will first eat bad food and then learn the value of good food. And that's what we have to stop. We can make sure that all of us, if we can make sure that we celebrate this message and we say that this is what we value, that this is as modern as it can get, then being modern is not processed food. Being modern is what we do today. And that we are probably the most modern nation in the world because we can celebrate the diversity of food and enjoy its taste and flavor. So that's really what our book is about. Thank you very much for coming.